What's allowed you to be undefeated in the Big East? Do you think? What's the biggest key? Like Jim was saying in here before that everybody keeps getting close to you for like 3 quarters or a quarter, but you just always kind of find a way to pull it out.
I think we get players that are pretty talented, and they know how to play in some of these situations. It certainly is getting harder and harder every year. I do think with the teams in our league, the more you play us, that's what happens. Back, I don't know how many Big Easts ago. The more times you play us, the more you get to know how to play us. I just think we have a sense, I think, sometimes of the play we have to make. I can't explain it any other way.
Geno, it seems like every time we talk to you, it's another milestone. 30 regular season conference championships now, 11 straight, and of course you passed Coach K today. How do you think about those as they're happening, with obviously bigger goals ahead of you?
Are you asking me that because of my happy, contented look on the sidelines for most of the game? All right. My reflecting on my great career and basking in all the adulation that I get, didn't I look like that on the sideline? I think you're so fixated on winning games, winning the next game, and I think earlier in my career, to be honest with you, as things were happening that were very significant, they impacted me a lot more. It's strange to say that, but maybe the volume of things that have happened, how many, I just kind of take it. I don't want to say take it for granted, because that's a bad word, but everything I just take it in stride. It's hard to say. It really is hard to say, except that you're so fixated on winning that you don't. And the other thing that's not good is you're constantly being reminded every game of how many things your team is not good at. So in that moment, or in the moments at practice, you really aren't thinking, we have over 1,000 wins, we have 1,200 wins, and it never enters your mind, because you're just so fixated on the things you have to fix, the things you have to correct, and I'm sure there'll be a time, when this summer or next summer, or whenever it is, when you think back and it'll really have a huge impact on you. But I don't. I really try not to dwell on it mostly.
Geno, can you just talk about Paige's ability to kind of take over a game, even when she struggles early on or isn't playing with the right amount of aggressiveness? She can just come out in the second half and take control.
I thought today was one of our more gratifying wins, I think. I felt like after yesterday's practice, I could tell that we looked a little bit drained. We looked tired. We looked mentally and physically tired. And, this is what happens at this time of the year. If you remember last year, the Marquette game, the St. John's game, where you just run out of juice there for a while, and you got to regroup. And that first half was a real slog. It was really, really, really difficult to get anything going. And it was everybody on our team. It wasn't like one individual. And you could feel it, just like a cloud hanging over us. So maybe halftime came at the right time, and we get out in the second half. And I think Paige maybe got her second wind and was able to get some space. We changed up things a little bit and spread the floor a little bit more. And once we did that, there were more spaces for us to, teams are in our league, teams everywhere, they do a pretty good job of just packing in the lane and saying, beat us with jump shots. And so we got to figure out a way to get them out of there. And Paige, she controls the game just by being out on the floor. And sometimes, she gets tired of being held. She gets tired of, how hard it is, to get open. It's just really, really difficult. In the second half, we were able to get her open more. And she doesn't need a lot of room. And she's not quite 100%. She's not been right for about a week and 10 days maybe. So this week coming up, where we have off all week from games, it's coming at the perfect time for us.
Speaking of in the lane, that was one of the most physical defenses Aaliyah has seen in the past, probably since South Carolina for the past week. How do you think she handled that?
I think early on there was a lot of there was a lot of activity in the lane. There was a lot of contact. There was a lot going on, and sometimes you get confused as to, all right, what are they letting us do? What are they not letting us do? But Aaliyah's got it very difficult in the lane if we're not making a bunch of threes. That's the only way that we can free her up to do her thing. So when we did that in the second half, it just opened things up for her, and her jump shots have opened things up for her as well. I thought even with the foul situation, I thought she had a great game, but she needs more help. She needs more help for sure.
Geno, what's been key to Aaliyah's development overall throughout her career with you, and even this season? She seems to have kind of reached another level, say around New Year's, and she's getting a lot done. She's also coming up on potentially 1,000 rebounds, and not many of your players have done that. There's some pretty big names on that list, obviously.
Yeah. Well, that's the one plus of being the only big guy out on the floor for 40 minutes, right? There ain't a whole lot of the guys that are beating you out for rebounds, but you still have to go get them. And I think her work ethic, we talked about this. Her freshman year her work ethic was through the roof. She came off the bench and changed the game. And her sophomore year, she'd be the first to admit it was a real, real, real struggle for her coming off the Olympics, And last year, I think she started to find something. She found something, and except for the month of February, she was at a real high All-American level. And it's just carried over to this season. How hard she's worked in the gym, how much time she spent, and I think she's really locked in. We practiced, I don't know if it was the day before yesterday, and I hadn't seen her that locked in a long time. I mean, she's locked in, but she was really locked in. So I think mentally she's in a different place, and I think you have to add something every year to your game, and the jump shots now are the latest thing to add.
Geno, Paige has played about as many games as she's had in a season through in college or in high school. How would you compare freshman Paige to senior Paige, where she is now during the season, And how do you try to, you mentioned her being drained, how do you try to get her through these next, however, 9, 10, 12 games, however many are left, that she's playing at a peak level?
I think the same goes for Paige that goes for Aaliyah. You have to rely on getting some help. I think freshman year Paige, Liv and Kristen and Avina, they're juniors at the time, and they contributed a lot. So Paige was an unknown product at the time. How good she's going to be in college. So she just took everything by storm because she was able to, play off of those guys. And it's gotten harder and harder for her every year since, with the injuries and with the way people play her. I've said this, I guess she's probably the most misofficiated great player in America today, in terms of, getting the benefit of the doubt sometimes. These last however long, this next month, this next 6 weeks, whatever it is, however long we have the ability to play, are going to be really difficult for her. And especially, you think about this year's Paige and freshman year Paige. Paige has 4 freshmen on the floor a lot of times. There's 2 of them in the starting lineup. That's a lot different than Kristen and Avina. So there's a lot more at stake that she has to try to control. She's a better player now than she was then. She's reluctantly starting to take more shots and be more aggressive. I think she just wants to win so bad. So, I don't know. We have to figure out a way to keep her fresh somehow.
Geno, when you're talking about the freshmen on the floor alongside Paige and having to rely more on them and the grind of February, how have you tried to make sure that those young players stay fresh and engaged and not too high, not too low sort of thing?
They've played so many minutes this year, way, way more than they ever imagined that they would play coming in. And normally we can have a rotation that gives them some breathers. Today wasn't one of those days, unfortunately. If we get in foul trouble, if a couple of our guys get in foul trouble, that really puts a lot of pressure on everybody else, because we can't go to our rotation. The key is, and this has happened the last couple of years, obviously, we find ourselves doing less and less at practice to not have them out there real long. So sometimes things don't get taught or don't become part of your learning. So that's a downside of having to rest people. But I think KK and Ash, given the situations they were thrown into, they've been lifesavers. I don't know where we'd be, without those 2. And you're going to have great moments and you're going to have bad moments, but their great moments are way, way, way more than their bad moments. But same thing, we have to find a way to mentally give them breaks, not so much physically.
Geno, last Friday obviously was an emotional night in a lot of ways, and now that that's kind of behind and those decisions have been made, do you sense, maybe anticipate with Paige feeling less pressure, maybe being a little bit looser because she knows this is not the end. That there's going to be something beyond this year, and that she could just kind of attack the rest of this year, not without that now or never kind of thing hanging over her.
Yeah, Paige feeds off of, like most of us do, Paige feeds off of positive things happening to her. And she's the most positive thinking individual that we have and that, that I've met in a long time. So she always thinks the absolute best of herself, of her teammates, everybody. And I do think she struggled with publicly announcing that she was coming. And I'm like you. I would hope that getting that off off your plate now allows you to just go and play. The only problem is for the last 2 weeks, I think she's been in a little bit of a shooting slump. And she thinks she should make every single shot. So when she misses, she gets angry. Like, you're not allowed to miss. And then I get mad at her, and then she gets mad at me for getting mad at her. So she's such there's a conundrum there. Like, she just plays and doesn't care about certain things, and then other things really bother her. And when they bother her, I think she takes it too personally. So I'm hoping that, shots start dropping for her in practice, and that she just starts to feel really loose and confident. But it's, like we don't have a lot of scorers on our team, guys where we can just go here. We can throw the ball to Aaliyah, but when people triple team her all the time, we can't just go here. Nika, go get a shot. Or, KK, go get a shot. Play one-on-one. And Paige is probably the only guy on our team that can do that. But if the other guys aren't playing well, she puts even more pressure on herself. So somehow we got to alleviate, all that. But yeah, she's an odd duck, man. She's not.
Geno, I know you're a big supporter of the other women's programs around the state, and you don't get to see them as much as you would like. But could you talk a little bit about what Carly Thibault-Dodonis has been doing at Fairfield? They just won their 20th straight. They're on the cusp of making the top 25.
Yeah. It's interesting that they I think they surprised a lot of people with their hire, because I don't know that it's not like she was in the area. She had been Mississippi State and Minnesota, and she'd been a lot of different places. So maybe a lot of people didn't really know how good a coach she is, or what a good recruiter she is. So I know nobody on our staff and nobody at UConn is surprised. And Fairfield's a place that's had success, obviously, in the past, and it's a place that they can have success long term. And so they have the right person. They've got all the pieces in place, and I think she does a tremendous job. 20 in a row is 20 in a row, no matter how you look at it. And it's almost impossible for a mid-major, if you want to call it that anymore, to crack the top 25, in women's basketball. A non-state school, a non-Power 5 school. So for them to be doing what they're doing is pretty incredible, I think. Pretty incredible. I was going to ask if they wanted to play, but I'm not asking anymore. I changed my mind on that one.
Ashlin comes a rebound short of a double-double today, played all 40 minutes. I mean, I know you've talked about her being unusually well-conditioned for a freshman, but, I mean, just how unusual is it to have someone who's that age and can kind of run the floor for a full game like that?
Yeah, we've had some freshmen come in and be able to do that. Rare, it's rare though. But she, the way how hard she plays in practice. I mean, in the game, the way you see her playing a game, it's like that every single drill with her. She's a lot like AZ. Like every drill is game speed, so she's accustomed to game speed all the time. She doesn't have to all of a sudden change when the game comes. And the more comfortable she feels just doing things, she's another one that she worries too much about what I think or what other people think, you know. And the more she just gets, like, the more she lets go of that and just plays, that there's a lot in her, and she's competitive, and you tell her something and she does it. You know, you tell her something and she does it. You know, we talked a lot about our guards got to rebound. We have to offensive rebound more. You know, we can't just let Aaliyah be down there by herself. And she takes that to heart, you know, and she starts rebounding more. I don't know if the Georgetown game when she got a steal and a layup, was like Christmas in February. Like, she's, for as tough-nosed, hard-nosed kid that she is, she's one of the most cautious kids I've ever met. And we're trying to get her to just be more adventurous out there, you know? Take chances, both on offense and defense. You coach kids like Ash, you start to appreciate kids that have a passion for the game. She's a lot like Nico in that respect.
Geno, just with the conversation around the wins and the records and whatnot, just given the last few seasons and like this one being kind of another kind of one with hurdles, have you come to appreciate winning any differently just in light of all that?
Yeah. I have. I'm probably like a lot of our fans. We made it look so easy. It was never easy, but we made it look so easy for so long that, yeah, you almost forget. You know, it's like going back to, for me now, it's like going back to the 80s and 90s where you had to, you had to play great, and you knew that, you know, every game that you won was special. You know me, I've always said the only thing worse than losing is winning all the time. You know, but I told the team today, I said this is one of the more gratifying, and we celebrate wins more now than we used to. Maybe if we had all 14 of our players, you know, maybe we would just, you know, be like we've always been here at UConn. But what we've gone through the last couple of years, yeah, you appreciate it way more, and you appreciate your players more. We had a kid visiting campus today, a high school kid, and we said, "What do you like about us?" And she said, "Well, I like that, you know, when you coach, you don't yell and scream and go crazy like some coaches do." So she was at the game today, and I saw her after the game. I said, "So how you feel now?" And I said, "I just wanted to make sure you saw the other side of me." But the passion and the wanting to win and the energy that goes into it, the feeling like this before every game, it's it's the same as it was, in the 80s. But I just think it means a little more now, It's like when you have it all and somebody takes it away from you, when you get it back, you tend to appreciate it more. Who the hell wore Eagles jerseys in here? The hell's going? And those are throwback old Eagles jerseys. You should have wore it to a couple of the games, the last 6 games, 7 games. Instead of you knuckleheads going to St. Mary's